Can online family trees help you break through your genealogy brick walls? Well, we are going to be tackling that question today. But the first thing you're probably asking is, how trustworthy are these online trees? Many people think online trees that aren't theirs are full of junk. Would that be you? Let me know in the comments or the live premiere chat. But let's tackle why you need to turn to online trees potentially to break through your genealogy brick wall. If this is your first time here, my name is Devin Noel Lee with Family History Fanatics, and we love teaching you about DNA, climbing your family tree, and writing your ancestor stories. And we love to give away freebies. So if you are trying to bust through a genealogy brick wall in your family tree, be sure to visit the link in the description to get your free guide. Now, online trees are something we have told you how you can use the different platforms from Find My Past, My Heritage, Family Search, and Ancestry to build and research and have fun doing genealogy. But the question that is probably the most popular question on Google is, should you trust those online trees? Now, if you haven't seen this video, I invite you to go check it out. But yeah, there are some reasons why you need to look at some online trees with care, obviously. So in the previous videos that we have talked about in busting through brick walls, this video is part of a larger series teaching you through a case study how to bust through brick walls. I found a name for a father, a potential father for my fourth great-grandfather, John Townley, in death records. And then I turned to doing some descendancy research, and I found a location of where John Townley originated in New Jersey prior to migrating to Cincinnati. And then in the last video, right before this one, we did a little bit of early census record research to see if we could further validate, yes, was John in Cincinnati in 1840, and was he likely in New Jersey, especially in a specific place in New Jersey in 1830? And so far, things are going well. And if you watched the other video, were you able to find Effingham Townley in the 1830 census? That was your homework. Did you find him? Let me know in the comments for this video. Why would we turn to online trees, and which online trees should we look at? Well, you can look at online trees and use them as clues to help you get hypotheses. Remember in the research plan video, we talked about developing hypotheses, and at the beginning I really didn't have any hypotheses yet because that was my question. So you can develop some hypotheses to then test out, but you want to look at online trees that have sources. Typically, if they don't have sources, the quality of that information starts to decrease. Now, some people hide their sources, but I'm just really not going to consider trees that are online that don't have sources. Now, once I see that they have sources, we need to evaluate the quality of that source. Is it from someone who created these records for nefarious reasons? Would they have known in the first place, or were they witnesses to the event and creating records at the time the event took place? These are the type of questions you're going to ask yourself. The other thing is, when the sources line up, does the timeline line up? Yeah. In a previous video, junk on the ancestry tree, I've mentioned about a woman who was pregnant. She is amazing. In the early 1800s, she gave birth to 3 kids across a year, one in like the spring, one in the summer, and one in the winter, in 3 different states. Can that happen? No, because the timeline doesn't work. There's some kind of something going on that doesn't make any sense. And so we're going to use the clues and the trees that have timelines that actually make sense. And then we're going to look to see if the parents are accurate. or could be accurate. So if you have a parent that's giving birth to a child, the woman's giving birth to a child 50 years after her death, yeah, that's not going to work. So once an online tree passes that minimum standard of information, you can start looking at those trees for clues for your research. Now, online trees are not just on Ancestry, Find My Past, My Heritage, Family Search, WikiTree, Genie. Did I miss any? Family trees can actually be on people's independent websites and independent blogs. There have been online family trees, or at least tree information, since I started programming websites, which I don't do anymore. But when I was in college and they were teaching us how to design websites, in 1998, people were putting family trees online. So let's look at some of the information I found from these family tree individual websites for the clues. And then we'll also go back to the ones that we're most familiar with. So let's Google our genealogy and see what we come across. Now, I blacked up some people's names to protect their privacy. I don't want to get anybody throwing stones thinking I'm making fun of them, but you're going to come across clues like this. And in my case, this was a clue that I needed to evaluate. So in this case, I was told that Effingham Townley was the father of John Townley, who lived in Cincinnati. And that's already my working hypothesis from those previous videos I just talked about. Now, that was established via a story about George Washington Townley. Wait a minute. We've talked about a George Townley in the previous video about the 1840 census. There was a George, there was a Major James Townley. So that's kind of interesting. And this said a possible brother. People didn't really know how they were related. And remember, if you are sharing a surname and you're living in a location, you could be related. Doesn't mean you're that closely related, but you could be related. And so my working theory is maybe Major, George, and John are somehow closely related. And so there's some evidence, some clue, at least a family legend somewhere that's being recorded and putting in the Townley box online to tell people about how people are connected. So we're going to go ahead and evaluate this, right? We don't know who Cole Townley is and why he would know this information. We don't know what research backs up this clue. Again, we're not picking on the person for sharing information, but we, when we come across this, need to be thinking these things. We don't know who the original storyteller to Cole was, since we don't know how, because Cole's not a name that we've come across so far. We have come across George. So who told Cole? We don't know. And is George Washington Townley the same as the George W. that we found in the 1840 census? Questions we should be asking, clues that may help us point us on the path. They could be rabbit trails. It's okay. So let's look at another entry that I came across. According to this information that was on a personal family tree, there is supposed to be a Townley family Bible. Oh my gosh, that would be great, right? Family Bibles are really golden. They do have their flaws, but all records have their flaws. So if we could find this Townley Bible, it would link John to Effingham and our case would almost be solved. But the problem is I have yet to find the person who has the Bible who will take pictures of it. I'm still hoping it's not a myth that there is a family Bible. And I'm still hoping somebody will share me a picture of that Bible that people keep referencing. So what am I going to do when I don't have a family Bible and I don't have a strong family, legend, a family theory, family body of research that points me in the direction? Well, now I'm going to go back to the online family trees that we are familiar with. Now in 2012, Family Search released its Family Search One World Tree, the shared tree that everybody's trying to work on together. Your thoughts about it, whether you like that or not, that's for a different video, different time. But for the purposes of this video, I was just super excited because I could see the work that I have done and that other people have done, and I could start evaluating what was happening in the family tree. And when I went to the family search and I found John Townley, my John Townley, I found a family tree. And it looked like this. Here's John, and there's some parents, and there's some other generations. I'm in luck, right? I'm in luck. I can start researching. But there's some major flaws. Do you see them? Well, how about if I do this? John is born in 1801. Effingham Townley. Oh, good. He's alive when John is born, and Jemina is alive. Well, we're not really sure. But if these were his parents, Effingham would have been 72 years old, and Jemina 69 at the time of John's birth. Now, if we went to Jemina and Effingham's family profile, you're going to see that most of their children were born between 1751 and 1765. So a child that was born 35 years later? Yeah, that's kind of stretching it. That kind of goes back to, does the timeline make sense? But they are from Elizabeth, New Jersey, and I really think what happened is before we started having online trees and access to so many records, somebody saw Effingham Townley and thought, that's not a common name, so that must be John Townley, who moved to Cincinnati's father. It can happen. And that's why we don't always want to just accept the research from the past without validating it. So that one doesn't work, and I went and I deleted that relationship. But then I found another opportunity for some parents for John with an Effingham as the father. But once again, there's some problems. First of all, Effingham is deceased at the time of my John's birth. And if they were biological parents, this Effingham would have been 91 years old and Rebecca 81. That's not biologically possible. Possibly biblically possible, but not biologically possible. You're probably still wondering, why are you telling us to go to online trees if all of you have shown us is junk? Well, what I found in investigating these lines is that people kept wanting to get back to a certain person. And this person is the reason why we have so many problems. And that person is Colonel Richard John Townley. And Richard Townley is a mover in the shaker in Elizabethtown, New Jersey. And let's go over to Wikipedia so we can zoom in on this a little bit further. Effingham Townley, Richard Townley emigrated to Virginia in the suite of Lord Effingham. So where is this name Effingham coming from? This connection to Lord Effingham. And there we have it. He settled in Elizabethtown, New Jersey, and that's a kind of nice little pop-up. He settled in Elizabethtown, New Jersey, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, my Cincinnati John Townley relatives and kin have heard we are descended and connected to this Lord Effingham, so surely we are going to be connecting through there. So now what? Well, there are clues, I promise you. First, let me invite you that if you want more training from Andy, myself, and other genealogy experts, be sure to find out what our next virtual conference may be. Go to familyhistoryfanatics.com/econference for more details. There's always something on the schedule for DNA, writing, and research, so be sure to check it out. Despite the fact that I've shown you that the hypotheses so far have been wrong, I really did find some hypotheses that really helped me with my genealogy brick wall. So, you ready to know what I discovered? Well, I'm going to go over and do descendancy research, starting with the Richard Townley that all of the Townleys are trying to get connected to. And I'm going to be coming down looking for Effinghams that could be my John Townley's father. And then, because I'm not finding records so far that directly identified which Effingham is John Townley's father, perhaps if I research the other way, I might find some clues to connect to it. So let's hop over to Family Search and do some descendancy research. I need to expand to 4 generations. Because with Colonel Richard Townley being born in 1643, my John was born in 1801. So that's quite a ways down the slope before I can start having somebody young, born late enough in the timeline, closer to John. So we're going to look for quite a ways down the family tree to see if we can find some Effingham. Effingham Townley and Rebecca Crane. Now, previously, we've already ruled out. This is the one it just biologically can't happen because he died before John was born and they would have been 91 years old. So we're going to do the next one. Now, this is Effingham Townley and Sarah Evans. Again, not even in close biologically to happen. But I do see this couple in some other clues that I may or may not cover in this series. So the next entry is an Effingham and a Rhoda. And what I like about this Effingham is that he's of an age that he could have had John be his children. But as I started looking at the names of his children, there was a William in the 1830 census. We have a Richard, another Richard in the 1830 census. In where? In the Elizabeth location. Now, granted, this isn't the William that's living because he died in 1790. It's really this William. There's an Abby, and we didn't see Abby because it's possible she's deceased or she's married under another name. There's a John, and I like this age right there, 1801. That's exciting. It's not conclusive evidence yet, but that's exciting. And then finally, we have a Caleb. So we have 4 men names that appeared in Elizabeth census records in 1830. So alarm bells are really and truly going off in my head. But have I solved my brick wall? And as I said before, we've got these men living in Elizabeth, where we believe that John was living in 1830, because his son said, his son's death record, on its interment record, it said that he was born in Elizabeth. So it's very likely that in 1830, John's family was living in Elizabeth, and we have a John, and then we have these other names that we recognize. If you check out this video, you're going to see how I mapped out the possible Effinghams even further to decide, is this my ancestor? And now that I have those theories, I can use the tools that Caleb talked about in this video to track my theories in addition to my research plan. Some really great tools that he talked about in that video. But it is time to go update my research plan. And if you want to see that updated research plan, you're gonna have to the show notes to the blog post, because in each series, when I reference the research plan, you're gonna see how I add things to it. And remember, it's a working document, so I'm not gonna pay attention to spelling and grammar, which many of you know is my weakness. So, what kinds of clues have you found in online trees to help you develop hypotheses? They're not all junk after all. So to learn more about brick wall busting tips in this series, check out that playlist right up there. And to watch other videos, since you're already caught up, check out this video.